a segment that dives deep into the issues affecting seniors and their families across the nation. I'm your host, Luke. Today, we're tackling a topic that sounds like science fiction, but is increasingly becoming a stark reality: the presence of microplastics in our bodies and potentially in our brains. What does this mean for cognitive health, dementia, and the well-being of our aging population? We all know plastic is everywhere, in our packaging, our clothes, our homes. But what happens when these plastics break down into tiny, almost invisible particles? These are microplastics, and new research is sounding an alarm about where they might be ending up. Recently, a study by scientists in Brazil, published and reported by NBC News, brought some startling findings to light. They examined the brains of human cadavers, specifically the olfactory bulbs. That's the part of your brain directly involved in your sense of smell, and it has a fairly direct pathway to the rest of your brain. What did they find? In 8 out of the 15 cadavers studied, researchers discovered microplastics. We're talking about particles like polypropylene and polyamide, ranging in size from 5.5 to a mere 26.4 micrometers. To put that in perspective, a human hair is about 70 micrometers wide. So, these are incredibly small. Dr. Thais Mawad, an associate professor of pathology at the University of São Paulo Medical School in Brazil, who was involved in the research, made a chilling point. We know the place we are most exposed to particles is indoors because all of our homes are full of plastic. We all know plastic is everywhere, in our packaging, our clothes, our homes. But what happens when these plastics break down into tiny, almost invisible particles? These are microplastics, and new research is sounding an alarm about where they might be ending up. Recently, a study by scientists in Brazil, published and reported by NBC News, brought some startling findings to light. They examined the brains of human cadavers, specifically the olfactory bulbs. That's the part of your brain directly involved in your sense of smell, and it has a fairly direct pathway to the rest of your brain. What did they find? In 8 out of the 15 cadavers studied, researchers discovered microplastics. We're talking about particles like polypropylene and polyamide, ranging in size from 5.5 to a mere 26.4 micrometers. To put that in perspective, a human hair is about 70 micrometers wide. So, these are incredibly small. Dr. Thais Mawad, an associate professor of pathology at the University of São Paulo Medical School in Brazil, who was involved in the research, made a chilling point. We know the place we are most exposed to particles is indoors because all of our homes are full of plastic. We pause for a moment to give thanks to Tam Lawrence for producing this incredible podcast in which we all aim to inform, educate, and inspire our listening audience to be proactive in every measure of caring for self and aging loved ones. If this episode has helped you, please drop a comment below or visit us online at exposureplustv.tv. Join me now is Emily, who will conclude today's episode.
Thanks, Luke, for doing an incredible job covering the first phase of this episode exposing aging in America. Listening audience to alarming conditions caused by plastics. Whoever thought the plastics in our home could be dangerous to our health? So, these particles are in the air we breathe, especially indoors, and can potentially travel up our nasal passages and into the brain. The study also suggests the bloodstream might be another route for these microplastics to reach our most vital organ. Now, the big question: what does this mean for our brain health, particularly as we age and become more vulnerable to conditions like dementia and other neurological difficulties? The truth is, the science is still emerging. We don't have a definitive X amount of microplastic equals Y cognitive decline equation. However, the presence of these foreign particles in brain tissue is a major red flag. Let's look at some statistics to understand the gravity of cognitive decline in America. According to the Alzheimer's Association, more than 6 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease, and that number is projected to rise to nearly 13 million by 2050. Other forms of dementia and cognitive impairment also affect millions more. These conditions steal memories, independence, and profoundly impact families. While many factors contribute to dementia: genetics, lifestyle, environment, the discovery of microplastics in brain tissue introduces a new, unsettling variable. Researchers are concerned that ongoing exposure and bioaccumulation, that's the buildup of these particles in our bodies over time, may be linked to increased inflammation, oxidative stress, or other cellular damage in the brain, potentially accelerating or contributing to the development of neurodegenerative diseases. It's a correlation that scientists are urgently trying to understand. Is it a coincidence or a contributing factor? Okay, let's break this down. Imagine you're explaining this to a fifth grader. How do these tiny plastics negatively impact our health, especially our brains? Imagine your brain is like a super smart, very busy computer. It has all these tiny wires and connections that help you think, remember, and do everything. Now, imagine tiny, tiny bits of plastic, like invisible glitter or dust bunnies, floating around. Because they're so small, you can breathe them in, or they can get into your food and water. If these tiny plastic bits get into your brain computer, they're like tiny pieces of gunk. They weren't designed to be there. They could clog things up, like dust in a computer fan. They might make it harder for the brain cells to work properly or to clean themselves out. Cause irritation, just like if you get a splinter, your body tries to fight it off. If these plastics irritate brain cells, the brain might get a bit swollen or stressed, making it harder for it to do its job. Carry unwanted passengers. Sometimes, other harmful things can stick to these plastics, and the plastics carry them into places they shouldn't be, like your brain. So, if your brain computer is constantly dealing with this plastic gunk, it might start to slow down, make more mistakes, or have trouble remembering things. It's like the computer gets sick. That's why scientists are worried these plastics could be making it harder for our brains to stay healthy, especially as we get older. It's a sobering thought. The convenience of plastics over the past decades might be coming with a hidden, long-term cost to our neurological health. The olfactory bulb finding is particularly concerning because it highlights a direct pathway. But as the Brazilian researchers suspect, if it's in our bloodstream, it could potentially reach any part of the brain. So, what can we do? This isn't about causing panic, but about raising awareness and encouraging action. Reduce exposure. While it's impossible to avoid microplastics entirely, we can take steps. Ventilate your home. Open windows regularly to reduce indoor air pollution. Use air purifiers. HEPA filters can capture airborne particulates. Choose natural fibers. Opt for clothing and home textiles made from cotton, wool, or hemp where possible, as synthetic fabrics shed microplastic fibers. Filter your drinking water. Some water filters can reduce microplastic content. Be mindful of food packaging. Reduce reliance on single-use plastics. Avoid microwaving food in plastic containers. More research is crucial to understand the full impact of microplastics on brain health, and to identify safe levels of exposure, if any. Advocate for change. Support policies aimed at reducing plastic production and pollution, and promoting safer alternatives. This is an ongoing story, and Aging in America will continue to follow the research. The health of our aging population depends on understanding these environmental factors and taking proactive steps. Be mindful of the plastics in your life, not just for the environment, but potentially for your own brain health. Thank you for joining us on Aging in America, produced by Tam Lawrence, presented by the Better Aging Bureaus. For more information on today's topic, including links to the research mentioned, please visit our website at betteragingbureau.org.